Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So in this one, we're looking at forms. So forms, what is a form exactly? So a form is when you want to get user input. So for example, in this case, on the Facebook page here, we have this section where you can type your email and your password here. So this is a form, this whole thing, from the inputs here where I type something to the button. So because even the button is user input, it doesn't look like it's user input, but because someone has to click this button for it to do something, and so that's user input as well, even though it's just a click. So this area right here is the form. So you can have many forms on one page. That's not a problem. Here there's only one form right there. So let's see how to create this thing where you can type some stuff in it like that. Maybe type a password like this, and a whole lot that you can do with form inputs. So I don't want to delete all this. Maybe I'll make this file available at the end, but let's move down here right at the top here. This is header text. So just after the header, I'm going to put a break tag just to give us some space to work with, like that. Okay. So here I want to make a form. So to make a form, you just type form like this, and then that's it. You have a form. Now, let me explain that. If, for example, these text inputs, they don't always have to be inside a form. They can be outside a form. But for as long as you want to submit that form, you want when somebody clicks the login button for the page to refresh and send that data at the same time, then you need it to be inside a form, otherwise it won't work. But if you just want it to be an input and you're using maybe JavaScript to get that data, or using some other means, then you don't need the form. But usually you do need the form, and it doesn't hurt to just put things inside a form. So in order to put a text input, you use just that. You say text input. So I'm going to say input, and that's the tag name. It's input. And then when it asks for type, you say it's text. Now, if you don't specify a type, it will assume it's a text type. So just like this, we don't even need this name thingy here. Let me remove that. All you need is just say this is an input of text. That's all. So if I come back here to my page and refresh, this is what I see. So this is part of the form. Okay. So that's a form right there. So hopefully the other text here is not confusing things. Maybe it's time we deleted it. So yeah, maybe for reference sake, we'll leave it there. Let me just add more break tags here, just so there's more space to see. Okay, so there it is. Now I can type some stuff in here, just like that. Okay. And of course, just like with any other thing, I can style this thing. So I can style it and say maybe width, just like we were using 100 pixels or something like that. I forgot to mention that you can use percentages as well. So I can say 100% of the width of the parent. So since it's inside the document, you to go 100% of the document and say this is some text. Now in here, you can also put something called another attribute called placeholder. This is some text that it shows to hold the space, so that maybe as a hint to whoever is typing something there. So type your name, something like this. So if I refresh, let me remove this, and you see there, type your name, right? In the styles, let's put padding maybe 20 pixels, something like this. And there we go, that's quite large. So let's put on 10 pixels. That should be good. Okay, so type your name, and then you can, at the moment you start typing, you see the suggested text disappears. That's placeholder for you. Okay, so this is how you create a simple input. So I'll remove the width here. So it's like that. Now you see the text here is showing, but here in the password it doesn't show. So to get that to work like that, all you need to do is change the type to password, just like this. Okay, and if I refresh now, and you see this is how it is. So it's that simple. You can also change this to email. This means that once the form is submitted, if this is not a valid email, it's going to flag you, or it's going to refuse to submit the form. So let's take it back to text. Now, if you want a button instead, let me put a break tag there, like so. I can do the same thing, input, but type, just write button like this. Okay, so we don't need the name for this for now. Now, if I just put it like this, this is what you see on the button, but it's clickable, but we need some text there to tell us what really this button is for, and that is the value. So value is equal to, maybe let's say click me, like so. So let me come back here and refresh, and there is a button. So click me, good. So we can put styles on this one as well. This is a style, not padding, maybe margin, so that all around there's some space around it. So I'm going to refresh, and there we go. Click me, click me. Now there are two types of button. There's just a button. There's also a submit button. So you can say it's equal to submit. This way, when it's clicked, it will refresh the page like that. Okay, good. So this becomes a submit button. If it's just a button, even though you click, it won't submit the form to process the information that was given in the inputs. Now, this is not all the inputs that are there. There's plenty of inputs. For example, there is color. So I can say input color. And as usual, I will encourage you to Google on all the inputs that are available for your form. So you see color. If I click here, it brings a color picker. Very nice here. So I can actually pick a color from there like this, select, and then the value of this thing is going to be equal to whatever that color is, which is awesomeness. Okay, great, great, great. Other types are things like input type date. Okay, so save that. So instead of color, this becomes a date, and there it is. So if I click on this, a date thingy comes up, and I can choose a specific date that I want from there, and choose a number and so on. So this is the date I've chosen. If I click there to remove, like that, boom, boom. So as you can see, very useful stuff if you want user input. And not only this, we have even more stuff like selecting, for example. So if I put another break tag here, there's also what is called a select. Now, before we do a select, let's try a text area, because that's easier to talk about. Now, a text area is just like a text input, but it's just much wider. So if I refresh, you see this is the text area, just like this one, but this one can grow like this. So if you are typing multi-line content, because when you press enter, it goes to the next line, this one does not. Okay, enter just submits the form. This one, enter, works just fine. It even has a nice scroll bar on the other side. So text area for you. And let's look at the select. So select is for selecting options. So you write an option like this. So you say select and then option. So maybe you want somebody to choose between food, clothes. Oops, what have I typed? Food, clothes, drinks, something like this, and we save. So when we come here and refresh, this is what we get. So we get a select thingy here. So yes, those are the basic ones. And then there's also, let me put a break tag. There's also checkboxes. So I'll put input and type is checkbox. And checkbox tick me, something like that. So if I do this now, oops, I forgot a K there. So you see, if it doesn't find that type, it just resorts to text. So this shouldn't be like this, it should be like that. So if I tick, I've selected that, boom, boom. So checkboxes can be like this, tick me too, and let me put a break tag over here, like that. And if I refresh, you see tick me and tick me too. Now we can change this to radio instead of checkbox, radio, like this. And if I refresh, you see they become like that. So the difference is that if I tick this one and try to tick this one, it should, yeah, normally it shouldn't work, but it should work here for as long as the names are different. So if the names are empty or they are different, if for example this one is called tick 1 and this one is tick 2, then that's fine. If I refresh, I can have both ticked the way they are. Now you cannot untick this one. That's the difference between a checkbox and a radio button. So the only way to untick it is to put the same name for both ticks, because there can only be one that is ticked if they're the same name. So just like that, if I tick this one, the other one disappears, just like that. The reason it does that is because they have the same exact name. So only one of them can be ticked. So you can use this to say something like on and then off, like this. So this is like a toggle switch there, on, off, on, off. All right, so these are the basic input types that you normally come across. There are several others, but these ones are the most common. And this is how you create form data. So this is how this part of the Facebook page was created. So of course they added more styles to the buttons here, etc., but it's the same idea: a button, inputs, and a form surrounding the whole thing. Alrighty then, so now that we know about forms, actually before we even go, if you add names to all of these, if I say name here, this one is option, and name here is date. Let's put a name to this name. Yeah, if we do that and then we submit our form, you see that in the URL there, it's going to add some other content. So if I refresh and then I add an actual date, I add clothes, I add on or off, I add my name, and then I submit, you see that all that information is now in the URL. Name is equal to my name, date 2021, our option, clothes, etc. So hopefully you have learned something from this, and I will see you in the next video where we look at where are we? So we're going to look at styling and positioning here in the floats using Flexbox and general responsive design. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.